Karthike, absolutely. I've had my finger up for so long because I find a lot of the things that have been said uh, making the situation sound so simple that it isn't. When somebody uses the word LOC, we have a problem on our hands.
I have a
This is
problem.
not yeah, this is not the kind of language that is acceptable, either to the state of Manipur, to the larger population in Manipur, tribals or non-tribals. The people who are giving out notifications like this certainly are not representatives of all the tribal community. So this is a huge narrative building exercise, and this is what brings about suspicion in people who are observing this conflict, in policymakers and other such educated people's minds that, there's a larger agenda to this, because nobody uses words like this or makes comparisons to the India-Pakistan line of control. I mean, this is not this is also provocation, in my opinion, and this is also leading to a very dangerous dialogue that we cannot afford to entertain whatsoever. So I really lodge my strong objections to the use of LOC or anybody defending the use of LOC. This is not as simple as it looks. This is leading to something bigger, and which is what we've always spoken about, is the territorial integrity of not just Manipur, but it is the territorial integrity of India, and we need to look at it from that point of view. Number two, when we talk about people giving us stamps of approval, I again have a serious objection. You want to give a stamp of approval to the Editors Guild, which has had 4 FIRs put on it, simply because it sides with one party and doesn't side with the other. You want to give a stamp of approval to international organizations because they put this colonial sponsored lens of majority versus minority, one religion versus the other. When
No,
we
no,
know that
I
is
had
not.
a huge objection to that. I did a special program on it yesterday when they said Meiti who are primarily Hindus and Kukis who are primarily Christians. I said this, there was no point. Why was that mentioned?
Karthike, that is exactly my point of view. When such false binaries are imposed and superimposed on communities as ancient as the Kukis, as the Meiteis, as the Nagas, the communities together should be objecting to it. They should not be in any way supporting this sort of a take. So I don't care what the United Nations says. I don't care what any international body says. I've said this on your show before. The European Union had 5 representatives. Not one checked their background. Not one was an expert on tribal affairs, on the Northeast, on Manipur, let alone had ever visited India. That is the kind of support that people are wanting. I don't accept that. Number 3, we talk about, we also said that cookies were evacuated from Imphal. Of course, I don't think anybody should be evacuated or anybody should need to leave their homes, because that is really a signal of us losing control. But having said that, ITLF also complimented the forces for that swift evacuation, and their homes are guarded by security forces, ensuring that no vandalization happens. I wish this was the case in other areas as well, and that has not been the case. So I think, instead of making these sort of lopsided arguments that, we have the support of international parties, LOC is not a problem to use. I think we have to look at it from a very balanced and logical manner, that where is this heading? Is this kind of nomenclature, is this kind of labeling going to help the cause? Trust me, this usage of LOC is going to have far greater repercussions than we understand. And therefore, as seriously as we must take it, is in the same tenor how we should discuss it. Not minimalize it to this much of an extent.
Dr. Gwite, sorry I had cut you short earlier. Please come in.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to add on to what Rami argument in terms of the use of the word LOC. So see, building on the argument, one can say that because as per the term, or as Professor Biswas has said, it's a militarized way of using that. But the context here is that LOC is in the mind of the people. People are so divided. Although the words may be offensive, but the feelings are like this. Here, LOC means the divide in the minds of people, not a border. We respect Constitution. Government has to make efforts to settle people in their lands. So cookies, Joe should also be allowed to come back to Imphal. But unfortunately, the poor cookies or people are not even able to bury their relatives whose bodies are still lying in the morgue for the last 4 months. Government has to provide security to them. Like Meiteis are moving with heavy arms to Lamka. Imagine if cookies come to Imphal with similar kind of arms and ammunition. So it is the duty of the government to move the people to their places. A mob moving to the areas with weapons is not justified. Although Supreme Court has instructed Biren Singh government to recover arms and ammunition, but the result is zero. No major recovery took place while people are roaming with stolen weapons and on the streets. So this is the situation. So it's not about the international organization saying or the human rights activists coming in, everyone. It doesn't mean that you kind of, they come in. How can you nullify the credibility of such organizations? So it's a clear case of state-sponsored violence. Otherwise, how can it go on till 4 months? I think it's in the history of India that such a long ethnic violence is taking place in Manipur. How can this go on without the support of the state government? So the state government is answerable to the ongoing violence and it has to stop it. And if you want peace to come in, they have to admit what have they done wrong? Where have the wrongs going on? Then only justice and peace can come into the state. So, until and unless we address the root cause and who is taking what side, or now if you come to the kind of FIRs which has been filed against either to be scholars or now coming with the latest of Editor Guild's India reports. I mean, is this the way that the state government should be functioning? FIR against FIRs? I mean, you are trying to stop people from the freedom of expression. If they don't report facts, then what will they report? Do they have to create story from what the state wants them to give the narrative? So these are some of the basic questions that as a civil society that we need to address. So that's my point.
Okay. Dr. Gite, before I give chance to Rami and before I give chance to Professor, I would like to say one thing because I did a program. I as a journalist, I am opposed to these FIRs. You can't have FIRs for, writing reports. But if you ask me the quality of the report, I have issues with it. If you ask me about the quality of that UN report, I have issues with it. If you ask me about the quality of that Editors Guild of India's report, I have issues with it. Not the pictorial, but the way it was written. I have issues with it. I am against FIRs. I completely agree with you. And I am putting this on record, lest someone says ki chup ki baithe. Yesterday and day before yesterday, I did a program. I said those FIRs are wrong, but the quality of report, boss, lot needs to be done. Rami, to you and then to the professor. Rami.
Karthikeyan, my limited point is that I don't think we can look at this LOC as a part of their imagination, because you cannot geographically cross that line. So this is not just limited to an imagination or a psychological divide. This is a geographical divide, and that is serious business. Do you think I can cross these areas? I can't. And I am from neither of the communities. So the only people that can cross these areas safely are people that, are considered to be able to give a report that is demonizing one community over the other. And that's what the Editors Guild did. And that's why it's being hailed only by one community. I am sorry, that was a very shoddily put together report. And I will talk about the picture also. You don't even do basic background check. It demonized one community, and I don't think you need that sort of demonization of any community at a time when all of us in this panel are saying that it's a very sensitive time for any provocation. So you cannot compliment that if you have the best of your state in mind. Number two, when we bring in international organizations, we have to look at not just the impact on Manipur, but what they are trying to do with the entire sentiments of the country. What was the need for that European Commission report to ask for the release, when they are talking about Manipur, of some Kashmiri journalist? I mean, does that not make it clear to a neutral observer like me? It makes it clear that that report is dubious. So I think the less importance that we give to any international body, the less importance that we give to some of these reports that come out that are demonizing one community over the other, I think the better we will be for it. But coming back to the border situation, to this line of control, I mean, I don't think any responsible citizen of this country, let alone Manipur, can have absolutely anything positive to say about a division within our own state lines. And I think that spells trouble, and we must look at it like that.
Professor Prasanajit, coming back to this issue, this comes